Good evening, everyone. This is Ryan Hoyme, aka Massage Nerd, and tonight we have a special guest. Her name is Laura Allen, and she's been practicing Healing Touch since 1993 and Massage and Bodywork since 1998. Laura is the author of The Plain and Simple Guide to Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork Examinations, 1 Year to Successful Massage Therapy Practice, and her new book, A Massage Therapist's Guide to Business, was just released this month. And she is also the owner of an alternative wellness center in North Carolina with a staff of over a dozen practitioners of different healing arts, a frequent contributor to trade magazines, and a blogger. So welcome tonight, Laura.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. So the thing is, I actually had to shorten down your bio a lot because otherwise we would be here the whole night. So.
Oh, some of it probably shouldn't be told on the internet.
So those are just the 3 books that you wrote that are massage related. Do you have anything else in the works?
Actually, I do have a new project that I'm about to get started on, and I haven't really told people anything about what it's about yet. It is to do with the massage world, but it's not going to be a textbook, so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that.
And you just came out with a cookbook too, didn't you?
Oh Lord, yes. I had been putting that project off for about a dozen years. In my former life, I was a chef. I owned 4 restaurants over a 20-year period, and the last 2 that I had were both called Nothing Fancy Cafe. I had started it out in a really small little rinky-dinky building out in the country, and outgrew that, and we moved to a bigger building, and people used to always ask me for my recipes there. So I had been thinking for years about writing a cookbook and including a lot of anecdotes from things that had happened there. But, I was kind of waiting for some of those people to die first. So I did just publish a little cookbook, and it's got some funny stories, and it's published as an ebook. You can get it on Amazon, Smashwords, and all that stuff. And it is only available as an ebook. I haven't done any hard copies of it yet, but I'm thinking I might do that in the future. But it was fun to do.
Yep. So I wanted to do that just to get you a little of your background before you got involved into massage. Then so.
Well, that was it. I cooked for the public for almost 25 years, and you can look at me and tell I like to eat. But yeah, I enjoyed that career. And then one day I told my husband, I said, I've cooked 875,000 meals and I'm done. And that was actually led to me getting into massage school. The owner of the massage school that I ended up attending, she used to eat lunch in my restaurant, and she was out there the day that I decided I was going to pack it in. And so if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd still have to have a job. I'm not one of these people who can sit around. So I asked her for a job. I told her I could type or file or sweep the floor or whatever. And she said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Well, I am actually looking for someone." So I went to work there as initially as the registrar, and then later as the later became the administrator of the school. And after I went to work there, I saw there was a clinic there, of course. And I would see people walking into the clinic, looking all whacked out, stressed out, and their shoulders up to their ears. And an hour later walking out looking all relaxed and happy. And I thought, that must be the best job in the world, just making people feel better. So I decided to go to massage school, and the rest is history.
So what got you involved in writing your first book?
Well, something, I've been writing something pretty much all my life. I mean, back when I was in elementary school, I worked on the school annual, and I wrote for the school newspaper when I was in high school and college. And I've always written poetry, and I'm a musician. I've always written songs. And I think maybe the first thing that really took the plunge with was a little regional magazine. I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was called Spirit and the Smokies. And I started writing about this healing journey that I was on at the time. And, one thing just led to another. I don't remember which came first. I started blogging. Massage Magazine asked me to blog on their website, and honestly, I can't even remember how that came about. I think I had written an article for them, and they said, "Hey, we're going to start this blog. Do you want to be on it?" And so I just until I just stopped this year, all the way through last year. I've had a spa column in Massage Magazine for several years, just spa treatment of the month, how to do different spa treatments. And then I also have a business column called Business Side that appears in Massage and Bodywork Magazine, which everybody can read for free in the digital edition on the internet, by the way. Massage and Bodywork is a great magazine, and you get to read the whole thing for free on the internet. And then I'm in addition to having my blog on my own website, Laura Allen MT, and on Massage Magazine, then I'm also one of the women who has the Women in Bodywork business blog on Massage Today's magazine. So I'm a blogger. I have a lot to say.
Do you enjoy blogging too then?
I do. I mainly blog about the politics of massage and legislation. Once in a while I throw in other things, marketing and personal essays and that kind of thing. But the majority of the time I do report on what's going on in the massage world. I like to, I've been interested in that for several years, and I like to keep up with what's going on because I think it affects us all, has the potential to affect us all. When something happens in one place, the next thing you know, it's happening somewhere else. So I try to keep on top of what's going on with regulation and legislation and all that.
Yeah, and somebody has to do that because it seems like a lot of therapists want to kind of stay out of it in a way too, so you're kind of the voice of it.
Well,
Yeah.
that is true, and a lot of people, say they couldn't care less about politics, but when something happens in your backyard, some piece of detrimental legislation, laws are not made overnight, and there's always a comment period and all of this before anything is signed into law. And if I see something that is detrimental to the people in our profession, then I'm going to holler about it and try to mobilize as many therapists as I can to show up at their board meetings, show up at the legislature, call their Congress people, and all of that to get things stopped. Before some archaic something comes along to damage us. A couple of detrimental pieces of legislation, snuck up last year. Even after a therapist had showed up and protested, it was slid in somewhere else. So I like to keep on top of those things because if it affects my license, my certification, my livelihood, my massage practice, and, the practice of the people who work with me, then I'm not going to take it lying down.
Do you get retaliation for speaking the truth then?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people who think I'm a moron. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and yes, I'm sure that I do. I'm sure that I do make people mad. I know that there have been some people in the past distressed at some of the things I wrote, but I do try and speak the truth, and of course, my blogs are all open to comment. I don't censor my comments. Somebody would have to say something really, vile, hateful, and racist for me to delete the comment. So you've heard it here, folks. You can get on my blog and call me a moron if you want. Nobody's quite done that. People disagree with me all the time, and that's fine. I mean, it's open dialogue, and that's what a blog is supposed to be. So I welcome comments whether they agree with me or not.
But just make sure that if they do call you a moron, make sure they apologize right away afterwards, okay? Or at least in private message.
Yeah.
So you teach, you actually teach classes too still, right?
I do teach classes for about 5 years. I taught at the massage school where I was employed, which was the Whole Youth School of Massage in Rutherfordton, North Carolina. It just actually closed down this year after 16 years in business. But I am a approved provider of continuing education. I have a classroom facility that's attached to my clinic here in Rutherfordton. And in addition to teaching classes here myself, I also host a lot of teachers from other places to come and do classes. So 2011, I'm just so excited about what's happening there that I wish I could attend every one of them myself, and I can't. But there's a bunch of our famous Facebook friends that are coming to teach at Therasage this year. Gloria Coppola, who actually doesn't live all that far away from me. She's, Gloria, and she's here in North Carolina, just about 30 miles up the road. She is teaching Lomi Lomi this year at Therasage. Bruce Baltz is coming to teach his hot stone massage. Karen Gual's coming to teach the Pilassage. And there's just all kinds of exciting stuff going on. So I love continuing education. Whether I'm teaching it or whether I'm taking it, I love it.
How many CEU credits do you actually get yourself a year?
Oh, Lord, I don't know because, to me, education's never wasted. And I go to a lot of events, and there's usually continuing education going on there. And if I have the time, I'm going to take it. I never have understood people who think continuing education is some kind of a burden. And a lot of people do have that attitude. They're mad because they have to. They're mad because they have to do it. I hear that all the time. In fact, sometimes when people call me to register for a class, they're complaining on the phone about, well, I don't know why I have to do this to keep my license. And I'm like, I can't wait to learn something new personally. And hopefully something that will help me in my business, whether it's from a business standpoint or some new technique to use with clients or whatever it is. I just enjoy learning new things, and I look forward to taking continuing education. And we're not allowed in North Carolina to hold hours over for the next renewal period, and I always have more than I can turn in, but that's okay.
It'd be nice if you could just sell your extras to other people. No.
I don't think we should. That could start a trend. I don't think we.
Might be a little illegal there.
Sure. Like selling a passport or something.
Yep. And where are places you're going to be this year that people can see you in person?
Oh my goodness. I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I'll probably say these things out of order. But I'm going over to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, to Vivian Madison Mahoney's Take It to the Top Summit. And, Vivian wrote the book on insurance billing. She's been teaching that for many, many, many years. And Gatlinburg is a beautiful place in the spring, and she's got all kind of entertainment and just a bunch of stuff going on over there. Then also I'm going to be at the American Massage Conference in Atlanta. And I'll be teaching my student class how to pass the exam, and that is just going to be a killer deal for students because Lippincott, Williams & Wilkins, my publisher, is actually giving the first 70 students that register for that class a free copy of my plain and simple guide to therapeutic massage and bodywork examinations. And that book sells for about $45.
That's awesome.
Yes, and it's, you were talking about how I got started with writing. That actually was my first book, and it's in its second edition now. But when I was teaching in the massage school, students were complaining about the test prep guides that were already out there, and they were saying, this doesn't contain enough pathology, and it doesn't have enough of this, and it doesn't have enough of Eastern stuff in it, which at the time the National Certification Board exam that was accepted here in North Carolina was the National Certification for Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, which did contain Eastern questions. It had questions on the chakras and the meridians and all of that. And, if you didn't go to a school that taught that stuff, the burden was just on you to learn it for yourself, which is, it's a very expansive body of knowledge. So anyway, I read the books that were out there, and I thought, they're right. So, I just went off half cocked. In about 3 months, I wrote this little book, and I called it The Plain and Simple Guide. And I was just taking it to the printer and having like 50 copies at a time printed up. It didn't have any pictures in it. I didn't have it edited. It was totally pathetic. And when I look back on it, I cannot believe that Lippincott bought it. But I had filled out an application one day to be a book reviewer for them, and one of the questions on the application was, have you written anything? So I was pretty cheeky. I wrote down that I had written this book, and they contacted me and asked me to send them a copy of it, and I did. And then a couple months later, they called and asked me to send 7 copies that they could send out to other reviewers. People who are doing the same thing that I was doing, and I still do that for them and a couple of other publishers that read books that are in progress right now and, make suggestions and that kind of thing. And so anyway, I sent them the 7 copies, and a little while later, they called me and said that they wanted to buy the book, and I was just shocked. And I still have 1 copy of that old original book that I self-published, and when I see it, I just think, bless my heart, I can't believe they bought this book. So the second edition of that came out last year, and then 2008, I wrote 1 Year to a Successful Massage Therapy Practice, and I did that because I do teach a lot of marketing classes, but that book is all about low cost and no cost ways to market your practice. And it's exactly how I built my practice to what it is today. I didn't really have the grandiose plan when I started out that my business was going to become as big as it has. And I do have multiple disciplines there in my business. When I started, actually, another couple of massage therapists had asked Champ and I to go into business with them. And a couple of months into it, they decided that it wasn't for them, and they moved away. And Champ is a carpenter. He doesn't work in the business unless I say you have to come down here and work in the business. So I was there by myself, and I got another massage therapist initially to come in and work, and she got saturated, and I got another one, and she got saturated, and I got another one, and then I expanded into a second suite of offices, and in 2009, I think it was, I expanded into another suite of offices. So I have a chiropractor who works with us, and an acupuncturist, a professional clinical herbalist, I have an RN there who's trained in aesthetics, have a rolfer, and have 6 full-time massage therapists and a couple who come in part-time and 1 part-time office helper. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but I don't know who that is. So anyway, I have a great staff of people. I don't have any staff turnover to speak of. And I just have a great group of people. And, back in the restaurant days, if I was gone for a day, I would just lock the door of the restaurant. I can take off and leave my business now for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and it just keeps on rocking while I'm gone. And it's because of the wonderful people that I have that work there.
And then you're also going to the World Massage Festival too, I think.
Yes, I am. I got off track there. I'm going to the World Massage Festival, which is over here in Cullowhee, North Carolina. Y'all need to come to that. I'm going to tell you, Cullowhee is a beautiful campus. University of, it's at Western Carolina University, over there in Cullowhee. And it is just in a beautiful place. The dorms are new, and they've just got killer restaurants over there. And, the Appalachian Trail is close by. Asheville's relatively close by. There are just the Blue Ridge Parkway. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. And there's no telling what Mike Hinkle has got planned over there. he's full of surprises. He's always got surprises, and I know that there's just a slew of people coming to teach classes, and the focus this year is research, which is great. Ruth Werner, the president of the Massage Therapy Foundation, is coming, and Whitney Lowe is coming, and I just don't know, but all the fabulous people who are going to be there. It's going to be quite amazing, and it's the World Massage Festival is a different kind of meeting there. It's been going on now for 5 or 6 years. It's always held at a college somewhere in the summertime. People get to stay in the dorm rooms for a really cheap price. It's included in the cost of the festival. You can get meals in the student cafeteria at a real steal. I mean, I call it the Woodstock of massage festivals, and it is really great. So yes, I will be there. I'll be there teaching how to market your practice using research. So looking forward to that. In the morning, I'm actually headed down to New Orleans for. I don't think that's how the people live there say that. I think they say New Orleans or something like that. But I'm headed down there in the morning to a conference called FARB, which is Federation of Associations of Regulatory Boards. I am on the North Carolina Board of Massage Therapy. I'm in my 5th and final year. I'll be going off the board later on this year after 5 years on that. So the board is sending me down to this conference, and I've never been to New Orleans, so I'm really looking forward to just in a few days down there.
And then AMTA, are you going to any other ones too then?
Absolutely. I haven't missed an AMTA National Convention in I don't even know how many years. And it's in Portland, Oregon this year, so I will be going there. I never miss one of our state meetings if I can possibly help it, and I will be teaching at our state meeting, which is over in Hickory. And I think that's in April. I can't swear to that. But I'll be there as well. And I also have I have a class scheduled somewhere in Ohio, I think, a little bit later this summer. And I'll be teaching over in Ireland during June. I'm very fortunate to have a gig every year over at the Oba School of Healing Therapies, which is right outside of Dublin in a little village called Leixlip. I've been going over to Ireland almost every year since 1999. I'd be living there, except my husband thinks North Carolina is the center of the universe. He just hollered here and said it is. It's not. But yeah, it's a beautiful place, and so anyway, that's the highlight of my year every year is going over there to teach. So I have a lot of things going on this year.
What do you teach over there then?
It's one of the few bodywork classes that I still teach myself. By way of explanation, I shattered the heck out of my left arm a few years ago, broke it in 5 places. Had 3 screws and a pin put in it, and then the pin popped out, and I had to have another surgery. And it's basically left me in the condition that I will tell people if I give you a massage, I'll be patting you with the left hand and rubbing you with the right. But I do still teach a bodywork class over in Ireland, and initially when I started going over there, I was teaching structural rebalancing. And, folks have to stand up in their underwear for that class and everything. And, I don't think the Irish people may be quite used to that. So I taught that for a couple of years. And then the owner of the school said, that she would really like to have a class to teach her students to address some different conditions. So she gave me a list of conditions she wanted to address. And I teach a class. I just call it Advanced Massage Techniques. And it includes sequences for carpal tunnel and TMJ and sciatica and low back pain and neck pain and rotator cuff and just, 8 different things, sprains and strains and that kind of thing. And by way of explanation, their basic education over there is it's not the same as what's required here in the United States. I always spend one full day teaching the anatomy that is involved with that class, because their anatomy requirement is also much shorter than ours. So anyway, I enjoy teaching that class. It really just thrills me to see the light come on in people's head. Basically, the therapists that I teach over there have really been trained in Swedish massage and stress relief type massage. And so for them to learn that, yes, you can actually use massage to get people out of pain is really good. It's really a good thing. And I have had people that have, attended that class before that have come back and taken it again, and it just always thrills me when you see a light go on in people's head about massage therapy.
Yep. And then somebody in the comments asked, what is the difference between the NBLEX and the NCB exam?
Well, the national certification exams, and there's several of those. You can be nationally certified in therapeutic massage. You can be nationally certified in therapeutic massage and bodywork, and then they have an exam you can take for state licensure purposes only, which actually is it's the same as the other exams, but it's just called a licensure exam. And for years it was the only thing out there. Well, a few years ago, the Federation of State Massage Therapy Boards formed and rolled out an exam called the NBLEX. The NBLEX is slightly shorter than the national cert. I can't remember the exact number of questions, but I want to say it contains like 20 or 25 less questions. And it is heavier on ethics content. I believe 18% of that exam is professional ethics. And it is a licensure exam. The difference is national cert is a certification which has been used in many, many states for licensure purposes. And I want to think it's still used in like 39 states or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how many the NBLEX is accepted in now, but I think it's pretty close, somewhere in the same vicinity of 30-something states taking that exam. I think there are like 42 states that have joined the Federation, and some of them have not yet adopted the NBLEX because they're waiting on the law to change. They have to do a legislative change. But basically the exams are similar. They are both multiple choice exams. They cover anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, business practices, ethics, ergonomics, pathology. They both have very similar content. The primary difference in the NBLEX is the fact that there's more ethics questions on that.
Okay.
And that's in response to the regulatory boards having so many ethics issues with people.
And then Gloria asked, do you see more states using the NBLEX as an exam of choice in the near future? Or?
That's hard to say. I'm sure that the Federation would love for all of their member states to adopt the NBLEX. And, the NBLEX, one of the stances of the Federation is that the NBLEX is owned by the state board. So I feel pretty sure that that most of the states who have joined the Federation will end up using it if they don't already. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to exclude the national cert. Some of the states are just giving students or potential therapists a choice of which exam they would like to use. Some states also have their own exam. New York has its own exam. I'm thinking that maybe Texas has its own exam. I can't remember. There are several states that do have their own exam. And there are also states, North Carolina being one of them, we actually accept the AOBT, which is the, good Lord, I can't remember all these acronyms. I can't remember, but it's the Oriental Bodywork exam. North Carolina actually accepts that as well. And some states do. So there's just a lot of tests out there, people. You can take a test, any day of the week.
Yep, and you can have about 30 initials behind your name too. So.
After that soup.
Yep, yep.
You know, I'll leave off some of mine. I'll just put, well, actually for official advertising purposes, you know, if I'm acting as a massage therapist in North Carolina, I'm obligated to use LMBT, but, you know, from my little national standpoint here, I just go by Laura Allen MT on my YouTube channel and my website and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, there's a lot of letters you can put behind your name these days.
And then your plain and simple guide to therapeutic massage and bodywork examinations, is that geared to both of those?
It is. It is actually geared toward. In fact, the first edition was actually called the Plain and Simple Guide to Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork Certification, because when I wrote it, the MBLEX exam did not exist. So when I got ready to do the second edition, by that time the MBLEX had rolled out. So we changed the name of it to examinations instead of certifications. And yes, it does cover both exams. And I would venture to say that even though it was not written specifically with any state exam in mind, I would hazard a guess that it would cover a lot of the information that is covered on state exams if you're in a state that has its own exam as well.
Okay. Then somebody in the chat asked, what do you feel the biggest reasons why MTs don't succeed in their business?
You know, I would have to say it's because they're sitting there waiting for business to come in the door. You just can't do that. You know, that is a major mistake that people make. The other thing is that, you know, I certainly don't mean to discourage anybody, but the simple fact of the matter is there are some people who are better off working for someone else. Not everybody is cut out to be in business for themselves. And, you know, it requires discipline. It requires, if you want to be successful, it requires discipline. It requires dedication. You know, I've been doing those little 1 or 2 minute business tips that I put on YouTube every morning. And the one that I did just this morning, as a matter of fact, the statement that I made in that is success is relative. It's whatever it is to you. And, you know, some people want to do, you know, 30, 40 massages every week and, you know, make hay while the sun's shining here and do as much as they can. To somebody else, success might be, well, you know, I'm doing 5 or 6 massages a week and I've got time to go fishing and I've got time to be with my children and whatever it is. So success is relative to you. When you decide what it is that you want, if that's 40 clients a week or 10 clients a week, then, you know, whichever one it is, you're not going to get it by just sitting in your office and hoping that business comes in. So this is one of the reasons I'm proud of this new book. Can I hold it up and show people the cover? Okay. Here it is.
And pull it back a little bit. Pull it back a little bit. Yep, there you go.
How's
Perfect.
that?
Right there.
Okay.
Yep.
Now?
Yep.
Thank you. I'm proud of that because actually the publisher actually solicited me to write this book. They felt there was a need for another business book out there, and you know, I think even though it will officially start shipping out on Friday, there's been several new business books come out this year, and I just heard about another one I think that came out today, and I can't even think of the author's name of it, but you know, I'm not competitive. I say there's enough to go around, and that applies as far as knowledge, books that people write, classes people teach, and also you know, business and other massage therapists. I always pilfer this term from Felicia Brown, who also lives here in North Carolina. She lives over in Greensboro, and Felicia uses the term collaborative competition or cooperative competition. And, you know, I say, yes, we all do have competition, but I think we're all the big family of hands. I want to hold up my hands. We're all the family of hands, and there are enough aching bodies to go around. So, you know, I do think that's the most serious mistake that people make, is that they're sitting there. You have to get out. You have to get out in your community, get your name well known, go to other people's events, attend people's grand openings, get involved with your Chamber of Commerce, go to local political events, join the Lions Club, you know, do whatever it is you need to do. but you do have to get out in your community and introduce yourself to people. And a lot of times we have to educate people about massage. For instance, if you live in a small town and you're the only massage therapist there, or the first massage therapist there, you know, you're going to have a big task there of educating the public about what therapeutic massage is. So the best way for you to do that is get out of your office and go out and meet people. You know, one of the most successful therapists who ever worked in my office, excuse me, I have to scratch my nose. She came and asked me for a job when she was right out of school. I don't know if she's listening on here tonight or not, but if you are, hey, Lisa. She came and asked me for a job right out of school. And I told her when she came in that day, I did happen to have an empty room that was available for a therapist. And my office is located on Main Street. So we do, just because of our location, get a certain amount of people who just walk in the door, you know, trying to get a massage. And 9 times out of 10, we cannot accommodate that. So I told Lisa the day she came in and asked for a job, I said, Lisa, I said, you know, I can't pay you just to sit here. I said, but if you are willing to sit here for 30 days, I promise you, you will have a clientele. And she went for that deal. Well, the very next day she came in for her first day at work, and she had only been there for a few moments, and she said, do you mind if I run uptown for a moment? She said, I'll have my cell phone with me. And she said, I can be back down here in 10 minutes. And I told her that was fine. Well, she walked out the door, and about an hour later, she came back and she said, I have an appointment at 2, one at 4, and one at 6. She had walked into every store on Main Street. You know, our Main Street's just 5 or 6 blocks long. She walked into every store on Main Street and introduced herself to people, and she said, hello, I'm Lisa. I'm the new massage therapist down at Therapeutic. And, you know, handed them one of our cards and proceeded to stand there and ask them if they had ever had a massage before and did they have any pain anywhere and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, that was one of the most successful young women I have ever seen. She went out and got it. So that's what you have to do. You have to go out and get it.
Wow, that was cool.
It was. She made a big pile of money. She has moved to Florida and got a job in a ritzy ditzy spa down there, I think. But she made money hand over fist over here, and it was just because she introduced herself to people every single day. She introduced herself to new people. One of my other business tips is to give your business card to 2 new people every single day. And she certainly did abide by that. She introduced herself, gave cards to people all the time, and she viewed every new person that she met as a potential client. And I'd have to say she nabbed a good half of them. You know, it was just impressive to watch her work. It really was at the way she brought people in. So it's a great thing.
Yep. And then you posted a few times about your goals. Like your one main goal that you always have every year, and you always break it. I mean, break it for the good.
Well, I did break it. I have broken it every year, and this year, it was amazing to me. The goal that Ryan is talking about is my goal that I've had since day one when I opened that business, and I've had it now for 7.5 years. I want to get 1 new client a day. I want to get 365 new clients a year, and we're closed on Sundays, so that means some other day of the week we have to get 2. So I have cracked that goal every single year for the past 7 years, and this year was just magnificent. I was, shocked and amazed and very pleased that we actually got, I believe it was 467 new clients this year. And now, folks, the amazing thing about that is I don't live in New York City. I live in Rutherfordton, North Carolina, which has actually the town has a population of about 3,000 people. The entire county, which is the largest county area-wise of the 100 counties in North Carolina, is about I think we have like 600 square miles here. The population of the entire county is 60,000 people. and it is the second most economically depressed out of the 100 counties in North Carolina. When I was a child, this was a textile community. It was also called Little Detroit because of all the car dealers that were here. There were plastic factories. There were furniture factories. Almost all of those have gone away. They've gone south, or they've gone to China, or they've gone wherever it is they packed up and went. But the industry, this is no longer an industry-based economy here. It's just, it has, there were 30-something cotton mills here when I was a kid, and now there's one. And it's, I don't know how it's surviving, but the economy here has been very, very bad. But you know what? I think when people are stressed out over money, I think they still need a massage. And I think a lot of people also realize that getting their massage keeps them healthy in other ways, maybe keeps them from having to go to the doctor as often, or keeps them from having to take as many pain meds or that kind of thing. So I think some people just made the conscious choice that even if I'm low on money, I'm still going to get my massage because it keeps me feeling better. I also think maybe some people who couldn't afford to take a vacation this year might have gotten a few massages instead of that. So it was amazing to me that we pulled off getting 467 new people in the middle of the worst part of the recession. The recession has been bad here. In fact, my husband's a carpenter and a builder, and his business has taken a really hard hit for the last 2 or 3 years. So I just make him work at the office more. I call him to do the honey-do list. So I think that just goes to show that if you have the determination and you are marketing your business wisely, that you can still haul that business in spite of the economy, in spite of what's going on. I think that's the proof positive right there that it can still be done.
And can you actually roll over clients to the next year so you can have a little buffer, just like AT&T does?
No, I don't ever do that. I take an accounting on the last day of every month. I look, and if it's a 30-day month or whatever it is, I always look and I go, well, did I get that 30 days? Now, back to the goal setting thing. I write the magic number. Our files are numerically numbered. Well, what I do is I write the file number that I want to hit by the end of the year. I put that on a sticky note and I put it on my computer. I have to see it every single day. And, I enroll my staff in that, and I'll look at that number at the end of the month and I go, oh, yay, we only have to get 150 more people. Oh, yay, we only have to get 50 more people. Oh, yay, we only have to get one more person, and everybody is just, everybody that works there is just as excited about it as I am that we're getting these new folks. Now, a lot of our business is repeat business, and that's what you want. You want word of mouth, and I'm going to say out of those 467 new clients, I would just bet that probably 365 of them were word of mouth referrals. So, I do encourage you to write down your goals. I've said on one of my little videos, it might have been the one I was doing this morning, I said, if your business plan or your goal setting is going along like this, well, someday I'm going to do this. Well, someday I'm going to do that. I want you to stop that now. Write down what it is that you want. Whether that's 40 appointments a week, or I want X amount of money. I want 50,000 a year. I want 100,000 a year. I want whatever it is. I want a boathouse at the lake or whatever. Write down what it is that you want and what you have to have in order to feel successful. Write that down, okay? And then write down, what is it that is standing in the way of my having this? And, put it on paper, make it concrete where you can see it there, because it's just more real. Okay. And then you start looking at solutions. What can I do to remedy this situation? And there is always something you can do to remedy the situation. So It might require a little bit of thought. It might require a mentor. There's plenty of help available to people. The Small Business Administration in your town will be happy to help you. The Chamber of Commerce, almost even in our hokey little, town of 3,000 people, our Chamber of Commerce will set you up with free consultations with SCORE, the Service Corps Retired Executives. And these are people who have been in business for themselves and who have attended the School of Hard Knocks, and who have found out what works and what doesn't. And they will be more than happy to give you free advice. It is free. AMTA just started up a mentoring program for people who want a mentor, can go on there and request one, and people who want to mentor others can go on there and sign up to be a mentor. So, and there's just numerous coaches. I mentioned Felicia Brown. She's a coach. I think Gloria does coaching. The Women in Bodywork business blog, there's a whole list. Megan Holub, I don't even know. I don't call myself a coach. I guess I am a coach, but I'm on your show coaching. I'm not. I'm on your show coaching for free. Yeah. But there's coaching out there available to you. In fact, Felicia has a group coaching class going on right now, and I'm sure she's still signing people up for ones that she plans to do in the future. So, get advice. Don't be the Lone Ranger there and feel like you have to do everything by yourself and, find out everything the hard way. That's one of the reasons I wrote the new book. I have attended the School of Hard Knocks. I have found out what works and what doesn't, and I put that down on paper. So the new book, A Massage Therapist's Guide to Business, it's not strictly limited to people who are in business only for themselves. There's also a lot of practical advice in there that can be used by people who work for others, people who are independent contractors, people who are employees. There's still information in there that would be helpful and timely to you. But if you are thinking about going into business for yourself, I strongly encourage you. There is everything from how to do your business plan. And something, I think people, I do think it's one reason why a lot of massage therapists get out of the business. There are about, I believe the statistics are that there are about 60,000 therapists a year that are entering the massage therapy profession here in the United States. And there are also almost that many who go out every year. Now, some of them go out because they are ready to retire or because, unfortunately, they've suffered a career-ending injury of some type. But I believe there are just as many that go out because they're not making the money that they want to make or that they need to make in order to survive and to feed their families, send their kids to school and college and have a vacation once a year and that kind of thing. I think a lot of therapists become discouraged and pack it in. And, I love quotations, and I think it was Thomas Edison, but I can't swear to this, who said a lot of people did not realize how close they were to success when they quit. So, one of the main problems that I see is that people don't write a business plan. They start off, all excited and all gung-ho, just go rent the office, hang the sign out, and that's it. But, I do advise therapists that you need to plan for at least 6 months. Now, hopefully you're going to open the door and be swamped with business in 2 or 3 weeks, and I sincerely hope that happens for you. But what you need to know is, can you survive for 6 months without X amount of money in the event? What if you said, well, I need 30 clients a week in order to pay my bills, and you only get 20? Can you survive for 6 months under those circumstances? So, a smart business plan includes a budget. It includes a backup plan for what if I have planned on 30 clients and I only get 15 or 20? How can I still pay my mortgage and meet my obligations? I encourage you, and the business plan is spelled out in this book, every detail of it. In fact, I put my own business plan in there as an example for you to go by. And I have adhered to mine. And, one thing that you do is, at least once or twice a year, you review that plan and look at, okay, this worked good, this didn't. So I need to rethink this and maybe do something else and, look at alternative ways of doing things. So it goes all the way through how to initially write your business plan, all the way through how to sell your business when you get ready to retire. It also covers contracts, for instance, work contracts between people who decide to partner in business, or people who get into an employee situation, or people who become employers, people who are independent contractors, or people who hire independent contractors. There's just a lot of information in there that's practical, and it's spelled out in my plain and simple language. I'm a plain and simple person.
And then somebody in the chat Cindy asked, besides word of mouth, what types of free or low cost advertising do you suggest?
Oh, there's just so many. The 1 Year to a Successful Massage Therapy Practice book is divided up into 50 chapters. The first chapter is kind of an introduction to here's what you're going to do. The last chapter is kind of a wrap up, and in each chapter there is one positive action for you to take every single week in order for you to grow your business. Now, these are all low cost and no cost. I don't think there's one thing in there that, I don't even know if there's anything in there that would necessitate you spending over $100, unless it was possibly your Yellow Page ad. The majority of it can be done for free with some effort on your part. One of the things I do talk about in there is, as I said, getting out into the community, being active in your Chamber of Commerce, hold an open house at your office. Our chamber does this thing that's called Business After Hours, and I have been the host of that every year since I've been in business. And the first year, 7 years ago, when we had the first one, I was so blown away at the response, I almost had a panic attack. Business After Hours, people just have a little open house at their business, maybe put out refreshments, and it's just for people to come and see your business and see what it's all about. And these are advertised by our Chamber of Commerce they're the ones who schedule it. Excuse me. They just say, let different merchants and service people sign up to host it on a particular date. And then they do the rest. They advertise it for you, and all you have to do is, put out tea and crumpets or or whatever it is you'd like to serve for refreshments. Excuse me. I've got a frog in my throat. And so then people will come and see your business. Well, the first time we hosted that was back in the days when we only had one suite of offices, and more than 80 people piled into my business. And, within about 10 or 15 minutes, I was going, oh my God, Champ, go out and get some more food and drinks. I never dreamed that 80 people would flock into my office at one time. So that ended up being one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, and especially because I had just started out in business. I wrote a letter to the Chamber of Commerce, and I just said, thank you, thank you, thank you. I never dreamed that my Business After Hours would be so successful, and, thank you so much for having this and, having this available and me being involved in it. Well, then the Chamber called me up and asked me if they could print my letter in the newspaper. And I said, certainly. And, they took out a full page ad in the paper, and my letter was in the center of it. And, that was just more publicity than I could have paid for. Excuse me, I have to get a sip of water. So, one thing led to another. Your business cards, business cards are cheap. And if they're only sitting on the desk in your office, they're not working for you. There are so many places in your town where people, there's little racks where you can leave your business cards. in a restaurant, at hotels, and, just anywhere that you can. Another thing that people overlook is flyers. Flyers are just cheaper than sin. You can go to Office Depot and get a pack of, bright neon colored paper and print up your own flyers on your computer. And, if you will go around your town, you'll probably be stunned to see how many community bulletin boards are around town. A lot of times there's a bulletin board on the inside of the grocery store. There is, I'll give you the greatest example where my flyers are at, and that is at the local community college. The community college is only like 5 miles away from my office, and it's a huge place. And there's a bulletin board in every hallway, and my flyer is hanging on the bulletin board in every hallway. So, whenever you see a bulletin board, it's free. Why wouldn't you do it? I'm one of these crazy people. I have I have one of those little plastic packs of push pins in the console of my car. And so if I see a bulletin board that I can hang a flyer on, it's free. Why wouldn't you do it? So there's just all kind of ideas that are mentioned in that book. Now, that is the 1 year to a successful massage therapy practice book. The one that is coming out Friday is the Massage Therapist's Guide to Business, which is more geared at the nuts and bolts of business. Although there is a whole chapter on marketing your business. And, I bet if you buy those two things together, Amazon, they probably give you free shipping or something. Yeah. But it's it is full of practical advice. And it is how, I took my practice from zero to, having 14 staff members it took me about 5 years to do that. But it was, and maybe you don't want that. Not everybody wants what I have, but you can, whether that's just you bringing in X amount of money yourself as a lone practitioner every year, believe me, it will work if you work it. You have to work it.
Yeah, and there's a few different questions here in the chat. Somebody says, do you have independent contractors? Because they said the person that wrote this, they switched to employees a year ago.
Yes, I do have independent contractors, and everyone who works for me, with the exception of my office help, is an independent contractor. I have always done it that way, and something, I have always preferred to pay people a great wage and keep happy, satisfied people there. I'm not in control of anyone's schedule in my office. They all do their own scheduling. They put a circle in the book whenever they're willing to be there, and whoever picks up the phone is free to make an appointment on their behalf. If they have a circle in the book, if they have a line drawn down there, that means don't book me, I'm not here. My therapists who have been there with me the longest amount of time they keep 70% of what they make. The newer ones keep 60. And, I've got folks standing in line who would like to come work for me because they're not usually compensated that well somewhere else. But to me, it's cheaper in the long run and I attract wonderful people, wonderfully talented people. It's cheaper to me in the long run to have a staff that stays there. I'm going to tell you something. Back in 1998, when I was right before I sold my last restaurant, I was paying a dishwasher $10 an hour, which was a good wage for a dishwasher back in that day and time, because a dishwasher is the most important person in a restaurant. I don't care if you're Emeril Lagasse. If you don't have a clean plate to put it on, you're screwed. So I always thought, a dishwasher, minimum wage, a hokey job, the person is always just waiting on something better to come along. And I thought, if I pay a dishwasher, a good wage, then they'll stay here. I'll always have clean dishes and they'll do a good job, and they won't be, I won't have constant turnover. I hardly had any, turnover in my restaurant for the same reason that I paid people well. I treated them well. And, I've had a spa person who called me for consulting, and she said, it only takes 18 people to staff my spa, but I've had 120 people go through here this year. That's not the fault of those employees. Believe me, that's a management problem when that kind of thing is happening. So I have made it a point to get the best people I could get. And I'll tell you something else. I hire people based on their attitude, because I can teach a monkey how to give a good massage. I can't teach anybody how to be a positive, upbeat, people person, service-oriented, bend over backwards to, to please the client, and still maintain their own boundaries, which is also a big deal to me. I'll never, if I see any of my therapists that I think, a client might be taking advantage of them by repeatedly, showing up late or canceling or whatever, I'll gripe about it. And I'll say, don't you think you've let that go on long enough? She's taking advantage of you. Just fire her as a client. Yeah. So that has worked very well for me. That philosophy has worked very well for me.
And then Gayla, she asked, does Laura use a specific business plan program? Any recommendations?
No. No. Hey, Gayla, I think that's probably, is that Gayla Cochran out in Las Vegas? Hey, Gayla. No, I don't have a business plan program. I've never thought about that. I'm sure that you can buy something like that at Staples. I went along and made up my own based on reading that I have done over the years, and just knowing, actually, massage therapy, as I've said, is my second career. The restaurant was my first career. That was a business. That was a service-oriented business. And in fact, it was funny, when I was going to massage school, the owner of the school said, "Oh, yeah, you can teach marketing." And I looked at her and I said, "I have never taken a marketing class in my life." And she said, "Doesn't matter." She said, "It doesn't matter." She said, "You have run a successful service-based business for more than 20 years. You're doing something right." And I thought, it is about service. And even though, there's a big focus on medical massage at my clinic, but even so, going out of your way to give good service to people, taking ample time to do a thorough intake interview with people, feathering your nest. We've got table warmers, we've got flannel sheets, we've got buckwheat pillows around the neck. We try to make people feel welcome. We try to make people feel cozy. I have very talented massage therapists. They all have their own style of massage, and they all do deep tissue massage. They all do Swedish massage. I have therapists who are trained in this and trained in that, everything from Thai massage to, some of my staff members have taken Gloria's Lomi Lomi class. Have a therapist who does orthopedic massage. We've got the Rolfer. We've got lymphatic drainage. We, have a wide, my staff, because of having that many of them there, they do have a wide variety of things that they do. So, it has just been a wonderful experience. But, I did not use any kind of program for that business plan. I just came up with a service-oriented business plan, and it is, like I said, it is detailed in the book. And now this book, A Massage Therapist Guide to Business, has a password protected website that once you get in the inside cover, there's a scratch off for you to go on and create all kinds of custom business forms for yourself, and the absolute directions for doing the good business plan. Like I said, it is my business plan that is in the book. So take it, use it, it worked.
And then Gayla also asked, what methods do you use to educate clients as to what all these different services are?
Well, it is up to us to educate clients, because Joe Schmo off the street really doesn't know the difference in Swedish massage and neuromuscular therapy or whatever else it is that you do. So I have a great big rack sitting right there in our lobby that is filled with brochures on everything that we do. There's a brochure on lymphatic drainage, a brochure on chair massage, a brochure on stress relief massage, and all that. And then on our brochure, we've been very descriptive about the different modalities that are there. Also on our website, we've been very descriptive. And, the main thing that we do is to get a feel for what it is the client needs. When someone comes in and says, I'm in pain, then obviously we're going to try and do something for them to get them out of pain. And, we do want to thoroughly discuss with people, because we have to find out. Just had a lady a couple of days ago who says, I have fibromyalgia. I am so tender, but I know that I need a deep tissue massage. Well, we don't want to, of course we don't want to hurt anybody, but she's already been down this road before, and she knew that she was going to have to put up with just a little bit of pain in order to get a lot of relief. So it is about client education and just explaining things to them and talking to them about it. I would always say to a person who's never had deep tissue before, I will always end that session by saying, and at the beginning too, but just reinforce it at the end. You might be a little bit sore for a day or two. That will go away, and you should feel better. And then I'll call that client a day or two later and check up on them. Because if you don't tell them that they might be a little bit sore, they're going to go away. And when they get up the next day and they feel sore, they're going to be thinking that you hurt them. So the onus is on us to educate our clients.
And then somebody in the chat asked, do you track the most sold service types and how?
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you said the word tracking because, I can look, I use QuickBooks for my business bookkeeping, and you can spit out a report in that with a click of the button. So, medical massage is what we do. The deep tissue massage is what we do the most of at my particular place. But the other thing that it's important for you to track is the results of your advertising. For the first 5 years of my business, I kept a tracking sheet little sheet that I just printed up off my computer, and it listed all the venues that I was advertising in. And every single person that came in the door for those first 5 years was asked, where did you hear about us? And that got noted on that tracking sheet. I probably could have pegged it within the first year, but it was just something I got in the habit of doing, and I was kind of watching a trend to see if that changed over a period of time. 92% of our clients are word of mouth. The other 8% are a combination of the yellow pages in our website. So, use a tracking sheet and absolutely track what is the most popular thing. And, you can also educate your clients by being more and more descriptive on your brochures, and that's another one of my little video tips that I did. Now, here was an example I put on the video. I said, you can either put this on your brochure, put Swedish massage, $50, or put Swedish massage, a lighter massage guaranteed to make you float off into a cloud of relaxed bliss. Now, which one of those massages do you want, dude? I want the one that's going to make me float off into a cloud of relaxed bliss, don't you? So, be descriptive. Make it sound better. Don't just say neuromuscular therapy, because unless it is a person who has had experience with massage before, they don't know squat about what neuromuscular therapy is. So explain that, write a little description of what it is that you do. And be sure that that's on your business literature. Be sure that it's on your website, and be sure that you explain it to people.
And do you still offer a guarantee on one of your books?
Heck yeah. And, I want to make it clear. I do want to make it clear that guarantee does not come from the publisher. Now, Lippincott, Williams & Wilkins is not going to give you your money back unless there's something wrong with your book. That is my personal guarantee. And, I'm just depending on you to be honest and to share with me that, yes, I did what you suggested, and I'm still a miserable failure. Now, if you write to me and tell me that, heck yeah, I'll give you your money back. But here's what I want you to do. When you get that book, you just save your receipt, tape it to your refrigerator with a piece of duct tape like we do here in the South or something. And you start working that book. Now, I'm going to tell you, it's like a 12-step program. It works if you work it. If your book is sitting there on the shelf and you are not taking the actions that I suggest, then I'm not going to guarantee anything. But I am guaranteeing you. Now, I would be crazy to say, do this and you're going to be making $100,000 a year by next year at this time. I would not ever say anything like that. What I would say is, you get that book. You don't even have to do the chapters in order. There are 50 weeks worth of positive action for you to take. Here's an action one week. Here's an action the next week. You can jump around. Some of them are maybe, holiday specific, something you're going to do on a holiday. So you can jump around. You don't even have to do them in order. But one thing that exists in that book is a journaling feature. And each week it says, okay, what is my goal for this? And then a year later, there's a little space on there for you to come back and say, well, here's what I did and when I did it, and how has this worked for me? Now, a lot of times when you hear about somebody giving an idea of, this is how to increase your business, excuse me, sometimes it'll pop into your head and you'll go, oh, that's not going to work for me. So what I want you to do is, if you read something that's in my book and you automatically go, oh, that's not going to work for me, I want you to write down 5 reasons why you think it won't work for you. And if you can't come up with that, then my advice to you is try it anyway, because it'll work. You just got to get over negative thinking. Look at the glass as half full. And, I do believe there's enough aching bodies to go around. There's enough stressed out people to go around, and I think there is enough for us all. So, yes, I will give you your money back. It works if you work it.
Okay. And then Gail asks, is your book on Kindle or print only?
The let's see, I can't remember which book is on Kindle. There is one of my books on Kindle. I actually think it might be the 1-year book. That is a very recent development. I did mention I had a meeting with my publishers actually in Minneapolis when we were at AMTA, and I told them that a lot of people had been requesting Kindle. So there is actually a feature on Amazon, I think, where they have a button there that says press this if you want to tell the publisher that you want this book in Kindle. If that's what folks want, then by all means, I will make every effort to tell the publisher that people are hollering for that.
I think you'll get a lot of phone calls tomorrow.
I'm going to be in New Orleans tomorrow, so y'all can call me.
And then a therapist made a comment on the chat. Your MT skills are essential, but your client relationship skills overshadow your MT skills. Do you believe in that?
Absolutely. Something, communicate. I don't care how good of a massage therapist you are. If you are poor at communicating with people, you're not going to cut it. People have to feel that you are listening to them. I've gone to I don't want to pick on doctors, but I got referred to this specialist one time, and because I do have, quite a bit of knowledge of anatomy and physiology and all those ologies, some of those ologies, I am not going to be talked down to, and I'm certainly not going to be ignored. I want a doctor to respect the fact that, yes, I can understand it if you tell me there's something wrong with my psoas. I just happen to know where that is. So I had to go. I got recommended to go see this specialist. He was probably in the room with me for about 3 minutes, and the man did not listen to a word that I said. And I came out of there, I was so incensed, and I told my husband, I said, that was the biggest waste of 3 minutes and $100 I've ever spent. So, clients want to feel that you are focused on them and that you are paying attention to them and that you are listening to their needs. Now, I want to go back to the client education for just a second, and that is, and I know as a massage therapist, that when a person has intense pain on one side, like my right trap is just killing me right now, part of that is because the muscles on the other side have become shortened, usually, unless it's some kind of, traumatic injury, and that compensation is taking place. So, I always have to work on the side that hurts so the client won't think I'm a total bozo. But then I will always explain to that client, even though this area is what hurts, this muscle over here has probably become shortened and causing some pain from the compensation. So, client education and communication skills, staying in touch with your clients. And I just think that's the most important thing. I do think it's just every bit as important, if not more so, than your ability to give a massage.
And Gloria asks, what do you feel we can do in the massage community to educate employers, spa, etc., to treat their staff better?
Stage a mass walkout. Shut your spa down for the day. No. Excuse me while I have water.
Yep.
I wish I had some simple blanket answer to that question. And I don't. I just know what works for me now. One of the chapters in my new book, I do talk about whether or not you have what it takes to be a good boss. And to find out whether or not you'd be potentially good as an employer, because you have to be able to balance, being the one who holds everything together. You want to be someone nice that people desire to work for. You can't let your staff members run all over you at the same time. There has to be a balance there, and nobody wants to work for somebody who acts like an ogre or acts as if they know it all. And people do want to be paid what they're worth and what they deserve. I saw a therapist on Facebook the other day that was taking a job somewhere in a chiropractic office for $8 an hour. And I just went, oh no. That was just incredible to me that someone would pay someone in a licensed profession that kind of money. So I don't know what we can do. I think you can always go on the ABMP has the massage metrics little page on their website, and it states, what the annual average salary of massage therapist is per year and stuff like that. And to me it looks low, but, they're also taking into consideration, I think, the fact that a lot of people do this business part-time. Some people work other jobs either because they have another job that has benefits that they don't want to give up or that they can't afford to give up. And I don't know how we can address that problem, but it's educating them, I guess, as to, I've had this amount of education. I have to take continuing education every year. It actually costs me money to stay in this job. So, I would like to be paid what I'm worth. You can always have that conversation. I just don't have a blanket answer for how we can do that. But I do agree it is a problem, and the majority of employers need to wake up and smell the coffee and just realize that, if you pay people what they're worth, you will attract quality people. You won't have the headache of turnovers, and your clientele will appreciate the fact that, the same person who saw them the last time is still there to see them the next time, instead of, one of these situations where, well, you walk into your favorite day spa and there's a whole new group of people in there every week. So it is a serious issue.
And Chris in the chat asked, what percentage of the industry is self-employed, do you know?
No, I don't know that right offhand, and I'll tell you, I think even the associations, Associated Bodywork and Massage Professionals and American Massage Therapy Association, they both collect a lot of statistics every year, but those statistics primarily come from their own membership. The Bureau of Labor Statistics also prints stats on their website. And I'm not sure of the number that's self-employed.
Okay. And then, what is the big difference between the 1 Year to Successful Massage Therapy Practice and the Massage Therapist Guide to Business?
Well, the 1 Year to a Successful Massage Therapy Practice book is strictly a marketing book. Pardon me. It is the low cost and no cost ways. One thing that it's set up that way, of that here during each week there's one thing for you to do to grow your business. And if you take that one action every week for a year, I do guarantee that your business will increase. So it is strictly a marketing book. The Massage Therapist's Guide to Business book goes way beyond that. It's how to do your market study, how to write your business plan, how to, it covers business ethics. It covers hiring people, firing people. It does cover advertising, wise uses of advertising that you need to run away from, because we're all bombarded with opportunities all the time of advertising, and I'll tell you which ones are good and which ones are not. And also, as I said, contracts. There's an example of a contract for employers to use if they're going to hire employees. There's also contracts for independent contractors. There's just a wealth of information in there that covers pretty much everything you need to know to run a successful business. Policies and procedures. You may think if you're a lone practitioner working by yourself, you're probably sitting there going, why do I need a policy or procedure? Well, if you've been practicing 25 years, you probably don't. You've probably got it figured out by now. But if you're a relatively new therapist, believe me, some situation is going to arise in the not too distant future when you're going to go, oh my God, what do I do about this? And so I'm a big believer in policies and procedures, and I have a big long list of things in there of, you need a policy to handle this, and here's how to handle it. And I have to say, I've imparted a lot of my advice in there. I would say that 90% of what's in both of those books, are the things that I have personally experienced, I have personally lived through, I have personally done it in order to make my business what it is today. And I believe that you can have whatever kind of success it is that you want in your practice, no matter what that is, whether that's just you being by yourself, or you, assembling a big staff full of people like I have. And I'm small potatoes compared to some people. I mean, the Grove Park ends up the road. They employ like 150 massage therapists. So I'm small potatoes, in the general scheme of things. But it is a blueprint for you a Massage Therapist Guide to Business is a blueprint for you to be able to run a successful business. Covers taxes, there's insurance. I've tried to cover everything that's pertinent to running a business in there.
Okay, and then another person asked, just wait, there's tons of questions going on now.
Thanks. Hey, I'm past my bedtime. I'm on a roll now.
Yeah.
I threatened that I was going to come on here in my pajamas, but I didn't.
And what do you think about a salary base to guarantee a minimum salary, then commission? Do you think that would actually work?
Well, I don't know. I've never tried it. Now, I know you had Felicia Brown on here last week. That'd be a question to throw back on Felicia next time she's here, because Felicia actually has made the conversion in a big spa that she owned at one time. She had, I want to say like 80 people, and she went from having independent contractors to having employees, and I'm not sure exactly how she did that. I don't know whether it was a salary situation or hourly pay or whatever, but you have to consider, if you guarantee somebody a salary, then you're obligated to give them that salary whether you are bringing in the business or not. Now, in my community, for instance, I talked about all these factories and plants that have gone down and that kind of thing, closed up and gone out of business. If you've guaranteed someone a salary and all of a sudden, some disaster happens, maybe let's just say that, an employer who has formerly sent you a whole lot of business suddenly goes out of business and all those people lose their jobs, or something of that nature, or, another recession like the one we've had rolls around. Are you still going to be able to meet that person's salary? So that is definitely a consideration. I know another entrepreneur. Don't know if she hasn't said anything, so don't know if Zerlan got to be on here tonight or not. But Zerlan Gazer Deary out in Oklahoma, she has a collaboration with the folks in her office, and they all do their own thing and collect their own money, and at the end of the month they split all the bills. So that's another way to think about running things, and I just don't know about the salary and commission. For me, I personally would not do that, because in any service-based business, and I found this was true all the years that I was in the restaurant too. In any service-based business, there are going to be certain periods of time, excuse me, there will be certain periods of time that are not as busy as others. And I'll just give you a little example. The week after, well, let's say the month. Let's look at the month after Christmas. I tell people not to go hog wild spending that money that they got on gift certificate sales at Christmas, because you still owe people to work for that. That money kind of needs to be in escrow. You have collected the money, but you haven't done the work. So, if you sold a bunch of Christmas gift certificates and you went crazy Christmas shopping, and then the month of January, the month of January, I probably don't have 25 cents come in the door. I'm doing good if 25 cents comes in the door at my office, because, it's all these people flocking in there redeeming the gift certificates that they got for Christmas. The month right after Christmas tends to be people redeeming those, not people coming in and paying for massage. The week of spring break, the week after school gets out around here, I have found that just numerous teachers and families take off on their vacation. It's kind of a dead week, because in fact, it's a real good week for some of my staff members to take their vacation, because there's just certain periods of the year when that's going to happen. The whole month of December, in my practice anyway, I would venture to say that I sell a lot more gift certificates during the month of December, probably outweigh the actual appointments that we have by 2 or 3 times, because during the whole month of December, people have so many obligations. They've got their office party to go to, and they've got their family things to go to, and they've got to do their Christmas shopping and all this. And there are some appointments, but I have found that the gift certificate sales in my practice anyway, are just going to, people will be flocking in the door all day to buy gift certificates, but not as many people make actual appointments during that month as they do during the month before. So, just bear that in mind, that if you commit to pay someone a salary, you're going to, you've got that commitment whether the business is coming in the door or not. So I would personally think long and hard about doing that.
Yep. And then there's tons of questions about products, whether to sell products or not to sell products, or to get a certain percentage, or have your employees or your independent contractors sell stuff, or
something, I actually forbid my independent contractors to sell stuff. No, the way I handle that is I have retailed some stuff over the years, and I'll tell you what I retail now, and this is by trial and error, and I probably will never retail anything else. Because I have tried retailing different things over the years, and I have found that the only things that really work well for us are the things that we actually use on our clients. So the very first thing that I ever started retailing was the hot and cold gel packs. You can put them in a microwave and heat them, or you can put them in the freezer and freeze them. And, we're always advising people to, put an ice pack on it, or, put some heat on it or whatever. And those things are cheap, the big ones only like $2 or $3. So those are really good sellers for me. I sell the heck out of BioFreeze, and I always have. I've been selling BioFreeze since the day I opened my business, and I sell BioFreeze all the time. I also sell essential oils. I don't keep a lot of essential oils there, because I do use Young Living oils. I've been using for 10 or 12 years. And, I don't even make any attempt to sign anybody up or anything like that, but I keep some of their most popular oils on hand. If someone asks for something I don't have, I just order it for them. I also carry Karen Kowal's Mother Earth pillows there, which are just, I'll tell you something, I put that neck pillow in the microwave and put that thing around my shoulders. And, you know, that's a seller right there when a person goes, what is that thing around your neck? And I'm like, oh, it feels so good. Uh, you know, so when clients see you using something yourself, they are more apt to purchase it. But what I said about forbidding my independent contractors to sell anything, I don't allow. I never want people to feel pressured into buying anything. Our things, you know, the few that they are, our things that we retail are out on some very nice display shelves in my front office. And if a client asks about something, then by all means, the therapist can stand there and talk about it till the sun goes down. But I do not want any of my therapists telling anybody that they need to purchase something. So we'll give people samples of BioFreeze, which usually, you know, usually leads to them buying a bottle. But I just, you know, that's just my own personal thing. And I mean, some people may be, you know, good salespeople and all gung-ho on it. And I mean, you may be making $1 million in retail sales. And if you are, more power to you. But for me personally, I just prefer not to ever present anything to the client as if they need to have this because I'm selling it.
Okay. And is there any other last words?
Oh yeah, it's time for last words. You know, I got that frog in my throat. I don't know if I can do this or not. I hope there's people on here who are old enough to know who Carol Burnett is, and I'm sure there's probably some young people on here who don't have a clue. But I'm sure this is unprecedented on the Massage Nerd Show, and I just want to say, I'm so glad we had this time together, just to share a laugh and sing a song. Seems we just get started, and before you know it, comes the time we have to say so long. How's that? I see we didn't even laugh too much tonight. That person who doesn't like you laughing on the show, I hope they weren't here tonight. We didn't even laugh all that much. I do appreciate you having me on here. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the people who listened in, and just keep on keeping on, folks.
Thank you very much, Laura. And make sure you get a lot of sleep because, again, you got to get up and go to New Orleans tomorrow.
Right. I'm going to New Orleans. Yeah. Y'all take care. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, everybody.